I'm good, thank you. I'm good. A bit cold, but good. And I work in the field of change, transformation, business agility, and I'm always keen to understand other perspectives and listen to a good conversation about it.
All right, so we'll give you today a good conversation, promise, and lots
cool.
of tools also.
Oh, brilliant. Thank you.
Heike, what about you? What brought you here? Okay, you're sitting. Heike is sitting. She cannot talk right now, but awesome. Julie, Irene, do you want to share what brought you here today and how are you feeling?
God, I've just joined the network.
You're joining the network.
Yeah, sorry, I've just connected and just dropped off one meeting onto the next. Really, I didn't realize this was a meeting, but I'm always promoting agility in the workplace, and a lot of people talk about working agile or knowing what agile means, but not necessarily understanding what it actually means. You know, some people go with the software version of it from the manifesto, and then others go with the aspect of I'm remote working, but that means agile, you know. But you know, so there's no real true definition of what agile working actually means, and having to educate people so that everyone is on the same page is often something that I need to do.
All right, so we are actually going to go pretty deep on what agile, and also from an economic perspective. So yes, we're going to go beyond the software approach for sure. So you're in the right talk, because I'm in that stream also of trying to show what's beyond the Scrum and the software approach in agile. Julie, what brought you here? Welcome. Maybe you can talk or not right now. Well, Julie, if you want to share anything with us, as well as Heike, feel free also to use the chat function. I will kick it off though. Just bear in mind that I gotta be respectful of your time. And I'm actually going to kick off this presentation not with a PowerPoint, although I was pretty tempted and I have it here, but I will kick it off with an agile tool. So we're gonna be using today Mural to go through this talk of today that seeks to explore what are the basic agility fundamentals or blocks that have to be in place for digital transformation, okay? And how actually digital transformation needs agility to occur. And we're gonna go through this journey together, and as we go, we're gonna use a little Kanban just to show how we go with it to keep it. Before I kickstart, I actually wanna go to the main core of the presentation, because if you have to drop off, I want you to drop off with the main idea. And it's this basic graph that you have here. And it goes back to the idea pointed out by Harand that agility goes beyond the software industry and beyond the everyday Scrum and beyond the main articles that sometimes we read, okay? Agility actually comes to be a business capability, a resource technology, and a management practice that can support what today is most present in many organizations, either your public organization, a nonprofit organization, or a for-profit organization. In today's digital economy, you have to generate customer engagement. In today's digital economy, you gotta generate digital solutions. And in order to do that, make sure that you got, as a technology resource, as a business capability, as a management practice, something that we're going to talk today that is called agility, okay? So today's talk, it's going to be just focused on that. It's showing what's the agility that generates the management practice, the technology resources, and the business capability that allow digital transformation. Here, the main call for action is, please, as you start your digital transformation journey, do not forget that digital transformations need something that is called an architecture, okay? And that architecture or enterprise architecture in today's fast-paced world will need agility, okay? So as we go through all of this content, that's the key idea behind. Yeah, so feel free if you have to go, you got the basic thing of today. Now, we're gonna start discussing a little bit about digital transformation, okay? Because after all, like, we want agility to kind of achieve this. This is kind of like the goal today. So can any one of you share what have you heard about digital transformation? What is that understanding that you might have of it? Anyone want to share an idea about it? You? Well, let's talk about this, right? Because the press for agility is in part also coming because of this. There's different conceptions of what digital transformation is. I'm going to actually share today something that as a practitioner I like because it's just kind of simple. So it's three main approaches to what digital transformation can be. One is by a company that I really like. It's called Salesforce, and it was because I used to be a manager on the ground, a sales manager on the ground, deeply frustrated because actually customer engagement and the generation of value propositions that integrate technology were basically not coming to fruition because my companies didn't have a good enterprise architecture and good agility behind. Yeah, so we couldn't deliver the product. We couldn't sell the product because my company at the end wasn't agile. Yeah, so that, of course, trump our digital transformation. So what is, according to Salesforce, we can say that digital transformation is the process of using digital technologies to create new or modify existing business processes, culture, and customer experiences to meet the changing market requirements. Yes, so this is very practical definition of what digital transformation can be. Another very practical definition of what digital transformation can be comes from Gartner. Okay, it's like a top thought leader in this area, and it says that digital transformation is just basically exploiting digital technologies and supporting capabilities to create a robust digital business model. I love these two definitions because they allow to put forward that digital transformation is not about digitizing, and it's not about only using or integrating new and emerging technologies, okay? It's about, yes, incorporating technologies to improve operational execution, but it's also about incorporating new technologies to modify our value proposition. And it's also about thinking how new technologies can leverage better working ways, better cultures, okay, and better management of our talent potential. Yes, so that's something for us to kind of start. As I mentioned, when we talk about digital transformations in our businesses today, agile comes to be key because agile comes from an organizational point of view and not from a market point of view. Okay, because agile strategy we won't be discussed today, but from an organizational point of view, agility, as you can see here, comes to be one, business capability, okay, two, something that allows us to leverage our technology resources, meaning that it helps the operational backbone of our organization, and it helps strengthen that digital service platform. And it helps in these two areas because it helps in the development of products in a more fast or nimble way. And it also allows more alignment of the organization, okay, in order to deliver those products and those services. Hence, agility becomes, as I mentioned at the beginning, a management practice, okay, and a resource technology that generates that business capability. Cool? Everyone with me? So as we see, it goes beyond just the Agile Manifesto and Scrum, yeah, the discussion, like from a more economic, rounded way, agility comes to look like that. Now, in order for agility to leverage digital transformation, we got to talk what are some of the values that are behind it, and what is it that we're really talking about. So we're going to see through today's sharing of ideas, because this is the conversation that we're having today, that agility comes to be from this business approach and seeing it as a business capability that leverage digital transformation, comes to be a leadership style, comes to be a way to access key talent for today's digital economy, comes to be an enterprise architecture, okay, that supports access and integration across the organization, comes to be a culture, okay, a way of approaching strategy and new thinkings, and at the end comes to be a way of transformation, okay, in our organization. That, of course, is not far from being impacted, okay, by new trends and technologies. So let's dig deep into this, okay? I brought you here some cool research in the industry about today's top digital leaders in the world, and what are the values that characterize these leaders. And you're going to start seeing what we're going to be talking today, agility around it. So Harlan have studied a lot digital transformations. They're pretty good in this area. And one of the key things that they were able to gather as information after they survey the top 25 top companies in digital transformation, and specifically the leaders, the executive, the digital transformation leaders in those companies, after surveying them and asking them, what is behind that success? What is key for the success of this digital transformation? Very funny, rather than just mentioning the technologies, what actually comes to be mentioned the most for the success of digital transformation was 1, openness toward change, 2, customer centricity, 3, willingness to learn, 4, innovation, and 5, agility. Okay, so those were like the main top 5 responses given by these leaders when asked what allowed that digital transformation. And as you see, it doesn't seem here to be like there was like IoT there, or or machine learning or AI, but actually, as you can see, these were more behavioral, okay, and approaches that actually allowed the digital transformation. For those of you that are agile practitioners, okay, and that are on the ground working on this, you may recognize these behaviors because this is Esti. Hi, Esti, welcome. Because when we talk about generating an agile transformation within our organization from the ground up, we're talking actually about generating within the teams, across the teams, in the executive, and across the whole organization, and its interaction with its supply chain and with its customers. This type of behaviors, right? That they're open to the change, that they are very focused on what the customer wants, needs, thinks, do, feel, yes? That empathy with the customer. And we are always working on, generating that willingness to learn. This is key, for example, the retrospectives that we do in the organization, and fostering innovation, right? And the other practices that we will comment in a bit. So I just wanted here to start just putting some facts, okay? Like some research on what's behind that what's behind digital transformation is not only the technologies, but from an enterprise architecture approach, those behaviors, okay, those approaches actually are the ones that are pointed as the ones that leverage the digital transformation. Now, the World Economic Forum, okay, has
You're welcome.
Also research in this area, okay? And when they show in their research, like, what are the top enablers for digital transformation in those that are leading digital transformation? Those top enablers are: 1, agile leadership; 2, digital savvy leadership; 3, nimble decision making; 4, forward-looking mindset; 5, collaboration within and outside the value chain. So once again, it seems like what is enabling digital transformation is not only the technologies, but there's a set of things that we can associate to being agile that actually support the digital transformation and that we cannot ignore, okay? Finally, I also brought you very interesting research on what digital leaders do by Western, and I'll share with you some material that you will have access. And actually, let me just already start giving you access to this. So whoever wants to follow this board as we go along, you have access to it. You can enter as a visitor, and you have there already some material or what we call like some. You have here some readings and some resources and what I'm going through right now. So it's there available for you. So Western, what he's calling is that what digital masters do, right? This is very interesting. So we see 4 main things that digital masters, those that are leading digital transformation, are doing in the different industries, right? The first one, design customer experience inside out, something that in agile approaches we are obsessed with, right? We want to bring the customer in our sprints or if you work with Kanban, however the cycle of work you have. But if you're implementing agility, you know that you are obsessed with bringing the customer in, right? It's like he has another slot in our Zoom call, right? So digital masters are obsessed with this. They design customer experience inside out. Second, they increase reach and engagement with the customer. Yes. So they're constantly thinking how they can engage even more customers. Okay. How can they reach to more customers to get more data and introduce that data into the product that we're generating, into the experience that we're thinking of, into the service that we're providing. The other thing, as you see here, is that what is at the heart is that customer data for that experience and that product. And finally, seamless mesh digital with physical experience. And we know that right now, because of COVID-19, this mesh, it's even more tricky, but we saw it before with the case of some digital masters, the case of Burberry, right? How they're able to bring into their stores the digital experience with the iPad, or how they're able to bring to their websites the physical experience as you purchase and buy, right? So those are some of the things. So as you see, what I want to make the point is like, actually, it seems that behind successful digital transformation, there's a set of values and attitudes more than just the technology, okay? And that's the building blocks that we're going to discuss. We're actually going to discuss that in order to be agile, okay, or in order to develop an agile capability for digital transformation, we got to make sure that our organization has some of these elements, okay? Or better yet, just to say that our organization developed these elements. And I'm going here to Hirend. Yes, Hirend. As you see, this is not the Agile Manifesto. This is an alternative way for us to conceptualize agility. And it's a way in which agility is not tied to a method or a way of working. Okay, so it's not tied to Scrum necessarily, it's not tied to Kanban or whatever. We will discuss in detail what each of these components mean. But as you see here, saying that our business, okay, it's agile, means that our business has the customer at the center as it develops any value proposition, as it improves its operations. It has the customer always in mind. That is nimble and fast. that has a voracious learning culture, that has a culture that has like, or team members that, or associates that have appetite for calculated risk. And finally, that it's characterized by unbounded collaborations across the organization. So what we're saying is that as we start our digital transformation, and we're talking about being agile, more than just focusing, oh, do we have the Scrum, or do we have the safe scale fundamental structure, or are we going to use Kanban, or we're going to do XP? More than that, we're saying that actually the focus should be in asking ourselves as we begin the digital transformation journey, well, are we here in this organization really being customer centric? Are we bringing the voice of the customer in our product lines, in our services, in the solutions? Are we being nimble and fast? Are we being voracious in our learnings? Is there truly an appetite for risk, and in practices, in behaviors, can we see that? And can we truly allow the team members across the organization to have unbounded collaborations? This is what we're asking. And by the way, this framework is not something that I created out of my mind. This framework is something that is used by Stanford, and in its great Center for Work and Digital Transformations, and I love it, okay? Because I believe as a practitioner that it actually helps me more see if an organization is agile or not. We're gonna see the different tools that we can use in each of this to kind of like explore if the organization is having this too, right? Because that's the pretty cool stuff also. The final point that I wanted to make before we go to see each of the tools and what each of these elements mean, okay, is the part of the technology, okay? And here the thing is like, yes, if we want to achieve digital transformation, we're going to be clear that actually digital transformation is not digitalization, yeah, but goes beyond that. It means using any of these new technologies into the generation of new value propositions for our fast changing markets, or embedding any of these new technologies in our operations with a priority to the first one, okay? So digital transformation is more about embedding new technologies for new value propositions, and then that generates downstream and impact in how you change your operational approach, yeah? Now, ideal, as you embed new technologies in your value proposition, you make sure that your operations also integrate technologies, okay? So you can leverage that value proposition. The other thing is that remember that most of the time in these digital transformations, what you're going to be having is an overlap in the technologies that you're going to be integrating to the value proposition of the business, and then, of course, to the operational side. Yes. So that's also something very important, because sometimes in digital transformations, we are just talking about digitalization. No, that's not digital transformation. No, wrong. Wake up, that isn't digital transformation, okay? So just to bear that in mind. Now, let's look at that agility framework, okay, that allows to build business capability and good management practices, and then that resources and technologies that can leverage digital transformation. Let's go with the first one, yeah, and it's customer centricity. We hear a lot about customer centricity, but sadly, if you're a practitioner on the ground, you might have detected a lot of practices that do not allow voice of the customer, but actually more voice of the business, right? And this is why an agile culture is so important to the digital transformation. Because if you're really seeking to be agile, this is what it's all about. It's all about bringing the voice of the customer in whatever you do, okay? And the voice of the customer, by the way, is not what the customer needs, is what the customer wants to accomplish and how we can help him that. Yeah, so that's very interesting too. So as we see here, customer-centric means prioritizing the voice of the customer, okay, rather than the voice of the business. Those customer-centric solutions, or that things that we went on the ground, that we research, and that we learn that our customer wants to accomplish. Okay, that's what we bring to the organization. That's what we integrate in the organization. That's what we see every day. Okay, we want to make sure that that generates that as we bring that voice of the customer inside the organization, we can't create out of it, okay, products and services that are desirable, feasible, and viable. Okay, because if not, we're actually not bringing the voice of the customer de facto into the organization. I want to make a point on this because sometimes we think that that being agile and being customer centric is just running a survey, getting that information, putting it in an Excel doc, showing it in a presentation, all of us nodding, oh yeah, we know now what the customer is, and that's it. No, okay? Or doing ethnographic research, bringing that, doing a presentation on it, and oh yeah, we know. No, yeah? Or having a product owner that says, no, that's not it, okay? It's actually about that, about really creating a solution, okay, after that is brought into the organization that is desirable, feasible, and viable. Because if not, you're not making justice to your customer. Yeah, you're not making justice because you are not actually empowering that voice of the customer. Yeah, you if you don't create a solution that is desirable and that is feasible and viable, that complies with those three things, you lost the voice of the customer. Yeah, so that's very important there, those three things. As you see, there are many tools for us to actually bring the customer centricity into the organization, which is key as the organization is going through the digital transformation, because this voice of the customer is going to allow for the organization to customize its value proposition and to learn what's the best way to integrate that new technology that they're planning to bring in to augment or enhance their value proposition. Okay, so what are some tools that we have to do this? Big data. Don't be afraid to use the data that your organization have and really crunch it. And if you don't have it, do the on ground work of building that data, okay, or outsource that data. I don't know, look for that data. Use big data to try to like crunch what is it that you can learn from your customer. If you cannot do that, don't be afraid to use active prototyping. And here design thinking is amazing, okay? To try to engage with your customer and empathize with him and see what else and how or in which different ways you can bring the solutions to him, you know? That's another thing. Don't be afraid, yes, to use ethnographic research, okay, to leverage the observation that you already have in your organization. In your organization, sometimes you have so much talent, your customer service, your sales representative, the leads of your products or of your programs, I don't know, whatever you provide. Yeah, use the data that they have to actually integrate it, okay, and think of how to optimize that value proposition with the new technologies and still making sure that it captures how that customer is feeling, is thinking, what he's doing, what he wants. Yes, so that's what it's about in this arena of customer centricity. I know that within the Agile community, we're actually pretty good at this arena of like really defending and trying to bring the customer voice into our ways of working, but just a reminder. So that's one thing, yes, key for digital transformation and part of agility. The other thing is being nimble and fast, yes, but not being nimble and fast in a fashion way. Oh yes, I'm nimble and fast, but just actually really embracing what that means. And we're going to see here that is actually not something so easy as we sometimes portray it. So yes, when we're talking about being nimble and fast, we're talking about as an organization, as a team of individuals that we're guided by a common purpose, yes, and that is like to serve our customer, okay, making sure that we are able to act and react quickly, okay, to the changes and technologies that that are occurring in our market, okay? And more important, because in today's world, I know that it's not about industry, in our arena, in the arena that we're competing, being able to do that. And that sounds very theoretical, but actually there's practical ways to see that happen. When you are in a meeting with your team members and you're trying to set a decision, and you guys set timelines, decision triggers, yes? And those are agreed, those are discussed in a collaborative way, you are becoming more sometimes like more fast in your decision making, especially when you set up times and you accept that you won't have complete information. Yes, these are tangible ways in which you can see organizations move to be a little bit fast in their and that they react better. And it's not easy, by the way, because sometimes we don't want to take a decision because we feel afraid or because we don't have complete information. Yes, we forget about the Colin Powell rule of making a decision with top 70% of the information that we have. We want 90, we want 100% of the information every time that we take, and this slows us down, and in the long run it makes us less effective and less successful. Yes, so nimble and fast, working or making sure that as change, if you're a leader in your organization, if you're a transformation leader, make sure that you set the right guidelines for teams to be able to act and react more fast. Okay, why do we want to do that? We want to do that because we want to make sure that our organization, as it embarks in digital transformation, is able to keep up with the pace of change of the arena in which they're competing. Okay, is able to scan their environment, and this is where business intelligence is key. Okay, so that means in concrete way, have a business intelligence capability. Yes, and this doesn't mean to have a unit called business intelligence, just have that capability. Yes, be able to do business intelligence, because sometimes we have a business intelligence unit and a business intelligence analyst, and they don't even know how to do business intelligence. Yeah, so what we're saying here is like really have the things that you need. Yes, so constantly scanning the environment. What does that mean? Have that business intelligence. Formulating a strategic initiatives. Yes, make sure that you are up to date in your market and your arena, what is needed, and then that you turn that into a strategy rather than just into plans. Yes, this is something that we see that trumps a lot of digital transformation, that they're more focused on the execution operation, and then they lose track of the strategy behind it. Right? What is the business objective? Who is the targeted customer? What is the business model? Yes, what is the expected revenues here? What's the partnerships that I will need with this? How's the offering being impacted by this? So having that approach, yes, that capability, yes, it's also part of being nimble and fast, asking those right questions, and then of course implementing. Yes, so at the end, agility from a nimble and fast perspective that leverage digital transformation means that we are creating tools, practices, okay, and fostering behaviors that allows a urgency or an awareness, better, I will say the better word is an awareness of, we gotta do the things with a speed. We gotta be interactive with our environment. We gotta be open to pivoting. That's what it's about. Yeah. So let's see some tools. Okie dokie. So as I mentioned, decision making is something that sometimes we get stuck a lot. Okay, and these are just some tools, right? But I just wanted to make today talk also kind of like clear in that agility is not something like a goes there or just doing a sprints and having product owners, scrum masters, and yeah, no, it's also like practices. Okay, our behaviors, little behaviors that make exponential changes, right? So taking decisions faster. What does that mean? Have decision deadlines. It's so crazy. Sometimes we just go to a meeting and another meeting and another meeting, and we don't have a decision deadline. And we're in the middle of a digital transformation, and we want to do everything fast, and we got to do it because we're going to be out of the market. And still, we don't set deadlines for our decisions. Yes. Don't get stuck with having 100% of the information. Take the learnings that we have from an organizational point of view. We have learned, and we learned this more like than 20 years ago, that, you know, you don't need 100% of the information to make your decisions. Just make a decision if you have between 40 and 70% of the decision, the calling power rule. Yeah. Amazon does it, and it has proven the long term more beneficial for them because it makes them successful more time than less. Okay. Make sure that you have mechanisms and routines that allow you to scan and monitor the external environment, as I said. So, you know, make sure that you're clear, what are the key results that I want to achieve, and that you have what are the metrics that allow you to track that, and check it constantly so you can see if you are actually on your way or not. Be curious, okay? And we're going to see a tool that allows us to actually survey curiosity, because it's part of the continuous learning as element that leverage what we call agility, right? There's different tools that allow you even to track and measure the timings for decision. I put here just a view. I will give you the reference for you guys to just go and play around with that tool. But it basically allows you to learn how long does it take decision making in your organization, okay? At the different levels, across levels, and for a specific key or strategic products and services. Have that metric. Very important, okay? Then there's other tools that allow you to measure kind of how fast are you doing your deliveries. Yes, and here many of you that have worked with Scrum or other agile tools, for example, you might have used lead time to market. You know, how long it's taking you to actually get that into the customer hands. But there's other things that also allow you just to measure how is that delivery process all along. There's something that is called the Agile Barometer. I will put the link there in the mural for you guys to check it out. And it allows you also to kind of like measure in every stage of that delivery how things are going. And that allows you to adapt, to inspect, adapt, and keep it transparent. Key values within agility, right? Inspect, adapt, keep it transparent. Yeah. So those are other tools that help you there. Now, something that people don't like to talk about, but is also very important to make the organization nimble and fast, is don't be afraid to actually, have more of what we call bold restructurings. Yes. And this doesn't mean that you got to have a whole restructuring of the organization. No. No, it doesn't mean that you have to implement SAFe and go in a 3-year journey. No. Bold restructuring here means that you set up plans or ways in which you reduce the silos, okay? And the reduction of silos, you can do it not only by creating, Scrum teams, but actually creating spaces of convergence, spaces for joint review, or spaces for joint planning, for example, yes? Or spaces for joint retrospective. Those things that allows you to reduce silo help you, okay, make the organization more nimble and fast, okay? Also, things that allow you to reduce something that we call handovers, meaning one unit helps the customer with this, but the other unit helps the customer with this other thing, and then this other unit hands the customer to this other unit to attend this. Reduce the number of handovers that the customer has to go through, because there are more chances that then you miss information, okay, that you make the customer journey less pleasant, and there's more chances for gaps and risks to emerge or happen, okay? And make sure that you're constantly being open to actually restructure, see how you can change, right? I saw this in a team. For them, the Scrum approach wasn't working, so they went and they used their Kanban, and with their Canvas, it allows them to do a new mapping of their value stream. And once they did this, they were able to reduce their timings in their delivery and work better. But then there was another one that for them this didn't work. So don't be thinking of only implementing a general solution. Yes, that there's one solution for all, a one fit solution. Yes, don't be stuck in one fit solution. If you're trying to move the organization towards digital transformation, and if you're trying for the organization to build the key behaviors, practices, and spaces that allow that. Yeah. The other thing, make sure that there's alignment and clear mandate. What do I mean with this? We might want the organization to be more nimble and fast because it's an element of agility. But if we don't have the buy-in for senior executives, and if there isn't a clear mandate from senior executive, and also a modeling of those behaviors by senior executive, by our leadership, it is very hard also for the organization to achieve this, because then there's more space for people to say, well, if they are not doing it, why will I do it, right? So as you engage in this digital transformation, and as you are aware that you want to be more agile in it, and one component is being nimble and fast, make sure that you build the political capital, okay, for this to happen, which is have the buy-in from the executive, help your executive in the understanding and exploration of this idea, and make sure that they're modeling these behaviors, so also this becomes easier to do. Yeah. The other thing is that to actually achieve this nimbleness and fast approach is the modularized approach. Okay, and the modularized approach is basically making sure that the organization it's able to work in their products, in their services, yes, is able to break down how they deliver that product and the service. That's what it means here, okay? Just to put it in my better English, and excuse me, I come from Caracas, Venezuela. I'm still trying to be a better English speaker, but basically means that make sure that you help your organization to break down how those big products that are integrating new technology, okay, are being delivered in market, because it allows them to modularize the work and the solution, and it allows them to be faster in the overviewing and reviewing of it, and in the integration of the customer feedback. So this is very interesting because sometimes we forget to modularize the things. Yes. And even sometimes we want to use agile approaches, and these agile approaches are not helping us modularize the things. And then it doesn't help us be nimble and faster. Yes. So another thing here, like, just be sure that you're not adopting a method. No, make sure that because you adopt a measure, you don't think that you're being nimble and fast. Just make sure that you're actually doing the key things that help you be nimble and fast. Yeah. So if you are running a Scrum team, but in your Scrum team, you're not decomposing the work properly. Yes. Even though you are a Scrum team, or you call yourself a Scrum team, you're not achieving what you need, which is modularize the work. Okay. Decompose, break down the things so you can actually be fast. You're just having a label of a Scrum team. So, but you're not doing the essential thing. The essential thing. So that's an example of what I mean. Yeah, just make sure you're really doing the thing that helps be fast and nimble. Yeah, rather than having a label of it. And the other thing is make sure that there's a sense of urgency that change must happen, right? So if we are in the digital transformation, guys, we need to become more agile, not because we just want to have the agile tag, but because actually if we achieve this, if we're a bit more nimble and fast, for example, if we're more customer centric, we will be able to have a value proposition that actually gets bought by the customer. Then that revenue comes in the organization, and thanks to the fact that that revenue is in the organization, we can get better salaries, we can produce better products, we can get new technologies, we can all keep growing. Yeah, so it's just like, let's go back to the basics. Yeah, so as you see, that's the arena of what we call nimble and fast. I wanted to share with you here an example also. And the final thing here is, like, as you guide the organization, as you want the organization to be nimble and fast, help the organization, as I mentioned, by creating like the good process flow for that, which is very important too, right? So we want the organization to be agile, but we never teach the organization how agile components will impact the business outcome and that digital transformation. So how do we expect them to be nimble and fast if they don't have this clear understanding? So please structure for your team members and your organization a clear roadmap, yes, so they can just hop into it and engage in a focused way. Yeah, so this is just an example. Yeah, let's go now to what we mean with voracious learning, which is super important too, right? Voracious learning is another element of agility as a business capability that helps in the digital transformation. Yeah, so voracious learning is associated to organizational learning. All of you that are freaks for enterprise architecture and organizational development know that when we talk about this, we're basically referring to this. Okay, so learning behaviors are an ongoing process of reflection and action, characterized by asking questions, seeking feedback, experimenting, reflecting on results, discussing errors or unexpected outcomes of action. Okay, so when we talk about the organization having a voracious learning, okay, or having curiosity to learn, or having continuous learning, as sometimes we call it, okay, it means this. It means that we do this, yes? So what do I mean? If you have a retrospective, if you are a Scrum team and you have a retrospective, but you're actually not truly learning what are the opportunities of improvements, what are the bottlenecks, what are the key actions that we're going to take, or if you're an organization that you're retrospecting a lot what you did in the past wrong and how you can improve, but at the end you're not experimenting on that, okay, you're not putting in action that, you're not asking new questions after that learning to see what else you can discover, then you're not having continuous learning, okay, you're fooling yourself. So that's the other thing that we want to make sure here, that for digital transformation, okay, when we talk about the learning aspect of agility, we're talking about this, making sure that in your organization, the questions are being asked on the products and the services and the team dynamics and the way that we're coordinating and communicating with each other and we are going to the market, yes, that there's a constant loop of feedback across the organization and that actually this is fostered and promoted, that feedback, okay, or feed forward, how I love to call it, it's part and embedded in the organization. It even has an instructor, yes, and here there's a beautiful work by Management 3.0 in what they call the feedback ramps, right? And it's the perfect example of how feedback really becomes more than, oh yeah, I'll give you feedback, becomes an embedded practice and tool to leverage growth, right? Because it is so important that even it has an instructor. For those of you interested in this subject, check out that Management 3.0 feedback graph. It even has an instructor. There's a lot of books right now on feedback that are amazing. I will put some also in the mural. I forgot about it, but I will put it. Experimenting. Is the organization experimenting? I have right now a great case, like my organization right now, they're experimenting different products or approaches, and I love it because this actually is making them more voracious in their learning, more agile, and it can build into what they're trying to achieve also of becoming, or of achieving that digital transformation. Yeah. So as you see, being voracious in learning means asking new questions and in new ways, curiosity, experimentation, exploration, drive new knowledge creation. And this at level of tools can mean that maybe you have internal hackathons, or how we can call it agile-thons, okay, in which all workers have an opportunity to figure out practices or new solutions for our working ways of how we engage with our customer, having what you call also like spaces to to showcase to clients prototypes, and that's done by the internal workers, also allows voracious learning and hands-on learning, as you call it. Other things that can allow you to kind of like help that curiosity and experimentation is make sure that you have a skunk work or skunk units, you know, teams that are very focused on that aspect of innovation also, and that are sharing it with the rest of the organization. Okay. Having something very interesting that my organization is putting right now, having what you call innovation, like internal innovation hubs. So more than just being a hackathon or something that happens in a precise moment, or a showcase, or being part of an innovation group. It's a hub that receives pitches and that people go and compete on. So like, just make sure that you create those spaces, right? Because it does help to refine the product's value proposition and also generate new products and services for the future, as well as unlock one talent that we have in our organization, and is that curiosity, that creativity that is within our team members, but that sometimes is not unlocked because there isn't the right infrastructure, yes, or there isn't the events that allow to trigger. Something that I brought you here, and I will put it in the mural, is very interesting. And it's this approach of having what you call like these curiosity surveys when you recruit people. So sometimes also creating a voracious learning culture starts by recruiting the right talent, right? And this is a practice that I thought it was very interesting by some of the organizations that are leading right now digital transformation. And it's that focus on also making sure that you recruit people that will allow the organization to achieve that creativity that they wouldn't if they don't recruit the right talent, right? So there's something called the curiosity survey. And interesting enough, it allows you, as you recruit team members within the organization, to see what type of curiosity they have. And what research have shown is that actually the most innovation occurs in those organizations in which you have the highest number of general curiosity, right? So the idea is that you can see what's the level of curiosity of the person that comes in, but also that you can see what's the level of curiosity of your organization today. So imagine that you run this survey in your organization and you can kind of see, well, what's the type of curiosity that we have? Is it general curiosity? Is it a specific curiosity? Is idea linking? Okay. What are the numbers? How does my organization looks in these three areas? And also it allows you to see, well, what is it that you got to work on in order for your organization to be more creative and unlocks its potential, right? Because as we mentioned, it's not only about being able to learn and to put in practice things, but it's also being able to question. Yes. And there's some of these tools out there that can also help you promote that voracious learning within your organization. Okay. The other element that I wanted to discuss today that actually help us in strengthening the agility that can support digital transformation is something that if you've been an entrepreneur or you've been with entrepreneurs, is you've come across this, and it's called appetite for calculated risk. Okay. And that basically means that you make sure that in the organization, there is tolerance for failure and being fearless, you know, that you don't hear like, oh no, I cannot say that I failed. That's not an organization that has an appetite for risk or for calculated risk. And actually, this is very important. I brought you here some research by McKinsey and BCG about digital leaders. As you can see, it points out that having appetite for risk in an organization, especially if you structure it, which would be calculated risk, is important. So check it out. It says, digital leaders historically have a high tolerance for bold initiatives and risk taking. whereas leaders in more laggard organizations tend to be more risk adverse. 31% of respondents identify a risk adverse culture as an obstacle to innovation, which is actually key for digital transformation, and it's part of agility. Yeah. So here the key thing is that an element of agility that helps leverage digital transformation is that actually the organization promotes an appetite for risk taking, especially calculated risk. Okay. You know, something that I learned recently, it was from Siemens, that they had like this wall of failures, and once a month, what they have is Fridays to discuss like their failure stories. They pick the top voted failure stories in that wall, and they all gather at the end of the month, the different teams, to listen to these stories and then gain learnings from it. So I thought this was an amazing initiative by Siemens, right? And it also provides psychological safety, and it helps team members to then develop that fearless risk taking that is so important in an organization. Another amazing case that I brought you here, and that it would be available for you, I'll share the link, is the case of Moonshot Factory. Amazing the work that they're doing, and it's precisely because within their organizational culture, there is tolerance for failure. They see every failure as a new way of trying out things and of learning. Now, be careful though. This doesn't mean that we fail and we do the same thing that we fail, and we do the same thing that we fail. No, here's tolerance to failure, which means it's okay for us to fail. Yeah. What is not okay is to fail like 4 times in the same thing, because then we're not learning, right? So that's also very important there. The other element, just coming then to the final one that I wanted to highlight, that it's part of what we call agility that leverage digital transformation. It's called unbounded collaborations. Okay. And this doesn't mean that you just have cross-functional teams and that they're diverse and from different nationalities. Yes, that's part of it. Very important. That must be there. Yeah, that's something that we're aiming. But what I wanted to actually make a point here is something that research from Duke Corporate University on agility for enterprises have generated. And as a Scrum Master, right, I love it because it goes deeper than just, well, if I want to generate, this unbounded collaboration in the organization that I work for, and that is going into digital transformation, and that we got to be more agile. Let me just make sure that the teams are cross-functional, that they're not too big, that they're diverse, that they bring different competencies, etc. But this actually makes a point that beyond that, okay, it's also making sure that the teams have these key things, and it's called, one, that they have socializing, that they really are socializing. Second, that they're agitating themselves, okay? And third, that they're synergizing themselves. Because, very interesting, what allows teams and teams across the organization to actually unbound that collaboration, it's precisely when these 3 elements happened. Right? So it's not only about making sure that the teams, are small, diverse, are connected, are autonomous, are entrepreneurial, but it's actually also that they are able to have these 3 things, that they're able to socialize with each other, that they're able to agitate each other with different ideas, okay, that there are spaces for them to provoke each other, to rethink things, to wonder about them, and also spaces for them to build synergies with each other. And I brought you an amazing tool that I think it allows me, for example, to check the teams, especially in this deep arena, how they're socializing, how they're agitating, how they're synergizing with each other. It's called the Agile Teams Assessment. And as you see, it asks different things, and then it allows you to rate how your teams are doing in each of these areas, and hence have a better indicator of how are you going about with this key endeavor of unbounding collaborations. All right. So what we did today is just basically discuss how agility is actually can be actually a business capability, a management practice, and a technology resource for our digital transformation endeavors. Yeah, we saw that when we talked about agility, it's not only about doing Scrum, doing whichever method you want to pick, but it's actually just going to fundamental things. It's being able as an organization to be nimble and fast, customer-centric, voracious in our learning, unbounded in our collaborations, and have an appetite for calculated risk, okay? We also saw very importantly that if we want to be agile to achieve our digital transformation, we gotta make sure that we have clear that agility must serve two key things. One is the integration of new and emerging technologies to the value propositions, because that's properly digital transformation. And second, that agility should support the organization to integrate also these technologies into their operation, which is called digitize the organization, and that allows operational excellence. Yeah. So what do you think? Was this a different view from agility? What are some questions you have? Let's open the floor.
Hi there, it's Aidan McMichael.
Hi, Aidan, welcome.
Yeah, look, thank you. It was a very enthusiastic presentation. Can you maybe give a few examples of, the practical examples of the executive and leaders, role modeling for this kind of agile excellence?
Yes, perfect. So today, well, at the moment, I'm part of an organization that it's called Tech Nation. Yes, and we have an executive sponsor. Her name is Ro Knapp. An example of modeling this is that actually she has been invested in what we're doing right now that is called an agile health check. Yes, and she's been part of the creation of the initiative, of the doing on the ground of the initiative, of the communication of the initiative, of giving feed forward and feedback of it, and being on top of it, right? So in role modeling, I mean that executive, more than just talking about agility, they participate in the initiative, they learn from the organization how agile works and is for them, and they actually put in practice the things that they are, as an organization, we define is agile. For example, she goes as an organization, we took a method for agility, and this was a Scrum. Yes, or other organizations can take other, but as an organization, we agree that given our market and the product that we're delivering, that's the approach that it worked for us, right? And so she participates in the events, in this case in our daily scrums, in our reviews, in our retrospective. Yes, she's all on that. She's also part of the initiatives, in the definition of it, in the sponsoring, in the communication, in the doing, okay? And she's also part of the ideation of, with the learnings that we gather, right, from this, what can we do so we can become better in our digital transformation? So just to let you know, this is a way in which you can see an executive that, of course, she has some other things because she's the chief operative officer, right? She has many other things, but she's also role modeling by showing, how agile could be done, what are the limits of agile, what can be the benefits of agile, how it works for us. That's a way in which she is modeling. Yes. The other thing, this case of Siemens is so amazing for me, for the executives to say, we're going to have at the end of the month a Friday in which we are going to vote on the top failures that we identify as an organization. We're going to come together and have a show and tell about it and learn, all of us. Okay. We're going to be part of that. That's another example of little practices that can make big changes, and in which you see executives role modeling it. A final example, it's the case of my current CEO. Yeah, so he's trying to integrate new technologies in our value proposition. So by being part of the commercial team, being on the ground, learning what the customer wants, how we can change it, being part of the test, of the prototyping, that's another way in which he's actually role modeling how we can become more agile in the value proposition and integration of new technologies in it for our sector. Does that help, Aidan?
Yeah, no, that's useful just to explore what role modeling can do for the agile excellence. I particularly like the Siemens example.
Yeah, the Siemens example is so cool. And this agile health check too, you know, because sometimes people is like, oh, well, they're going to do another survey or another interviews, but for what? What's it going to be generated, right? But having the executive there saying, hey, thank you, we learned this, and look, we're putting this together, and this that you recommended, we tested, but it failed. But this other thing that we learned from what you shared, we tested, and it was a win. We're gonna go down this track. Thank you. So, you know, it's building those working ways that really leverage change, because the executives are showing what is the payoff of it and are part of it. Yeah, so that role modeling is that, you know, it's doing what you are expecting your team members to do and be along that journey with them, which is very tough because of many times they don't have too much time, but picking the key things and being part of them and doing them can actually then communicate to the organization, this is important to us. We all must be all in on this.
Okay, thank you.
All right, any other key question? I'm just moving here the comment then. All right, so what I will do right now also is just share this link to you, and share the link to the other board, and you will have access to then all the material there. So here, the first board for the case of digital transformation, and then I will be dropping in there another material, which are kind of like surveys and tools for you to go about and grab them and just play with them and check it out as you want. So this one has more like the books and resources, etc., and some tools. So I will drop here also that for you to have. Okay. And awesome. I hope that you had a good time and that you enjoyed a new approach. Cheers. A pleasure, Irene, a pleasure. Bye, guys. Thank you so much.